it's not good, and it's just not happening. And they're miserable. My bass player and my drummer, back at me, I'm just miserable. So I go, oh well, hell with it. It's not going to work. You have to remember, in those days, there was no internet, there was no jam bands. There was only one avenue to success, and that there was no YouTube. There was only one avenue to success, and that was a hit record. Radio ruled the roost. And it was it's called CHR radio, which is contemporary hit radio, which is FM's version of top 40. But in fact, there were only 23 records, maybe. If you're number one, you'd get 9 plays a day. If you were number 23, you got like 1 or 2. So, and we all competed for that radio format. That is Huey Lewis and the News, Garth Brooks, the Commodores, Bobby Brown, Whitney Houston. I mean, everybody was competing for that thing. So you had to have a hit record. That meant you needed to make a lot of commercial decisions, and we wanted to make those ourselves. So we fought to produce ourselves, because I had, after all, been in a band that was produced by Mutt Lange. And so I knew I knew my way around the studio because I'd worked with Mutt for a couple of records. And so I was convinced that me and us, the band, could produce our record better than anybody else. And finally, our manager fought for us. And because our record label, Chris, was a small private label, Chrysalis Records in London, 7,000 miles away, they couldn't really control us. They allowed us to produce the record ourselves. And so what I knew, we needed a hit record. So I aimed every song at radio, because we knew we needed a hit. We didn't know we were going to have 5 of them. And so interestingly, the genres are different. One's kind of a hard rocker, one's kind of a bluesy thing, one's a nice ballad, because we didn't know which one would be a hit, but we knew we needed a hit. And that's really the thing I'm proudest of, is that we did that all ourselves in San Francisco. Nobody produced their own records in 1982, and we managed to do it and get some big hits, which was really the hardest thing for us. We always were a good band. We're really more like a jam band in our day, but there was no avenue for that. You had to have a hit record. So and when I listen to sports now, that's what it sounds like to me. I remember crafting each one of those songs for radio.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's incredible. That album went 7 times platinum, which is, for a lot of people out there, they may not even know what that means anymore, but that's over 7 million records that are sold. And the songs that were top 10 from that album: I Want a New Drug, The Heart of Rock and Roll, If This Is It, Heart and Soul. And like you said, that's kind of a nice mix. They're different. They have different styles to them. So,
and interestingly, that's rare. That's because we produced them ourselves. A legit producer would never have so many disparate genres on the one record. Yeah. It's just crazy. It's kind of crazy what we did. It's got honky tonk blues and bad is bad. It's kind of nuts. But all of those ideas spoke to me and us, and they're genuine, because songs are gifts. Songs just come to you. So we gift these ideas and you write the song. If there's anything that I think that I'm rather proud of, it, the production on that record is kind of interesting, because with sports, when we first started recording it, we were we recorded in a bunch of studios in San Francisco, but we did a lot of stuff in the record plant. And then while we were recording in Studio B, in Studio A was Jefferson Starship with Ron Nevison producing, and the techno Peter Wolf, the Austrian producer, was doing all the keyboards and the programming. And out of their studio, I go out to the bathroom out of our studio, and out of their studio I hear, "We built this city," and I went, "Whoa, what is that?" So then I got Peter Wolf out, and I said, "Peter, would you do me a favor?" Because this was 1981, 82. The Lindrum had just been invented. And the Lindrum was the first drum machine was probably 78, 79. And we knew all about it. We'd heard that this guy, Roger Lynn, had Jeff Piccaro's drums in a box. I said, "What?" "Yeah, drums Jeff Piccaro's drums in a box." "Oh no, it's a chip. It's a chip? What's a chip? I don't know. But so we got one of these things, and my idea was to combine the Lindrum, the techno, up to the minute technology of the Lindrum, and the old school songs that we were writing, the old and the new at once, if you will, as epitomized with "Bad Is Bad," which starts with just Lindrums there, dish, 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 dish. Then come the vocal, the doo-wop vocal. So the idea being the old and new at once, and that's kind of what we did with, and Want a New Drug. That's a drum machine, and that's a sequenced bass. And then we dressed it up with fills and all that stuff. But that record, which looks from the cover to be just a bar band just jamming, is anything but. We put it all together piece by piece.
Yeah, that's interesting because it wasn't obvious to, I think, a lot of us. I guess we just loved the song, so we didn't really think about it. But was there consensus with everybody in the band that, yeah, let's do this. Let's take this new technology and add it and kind of change our sound a little bit?
You're asking all the right questions if you want to get the good stories.
Yes.
So now, Peter Wolf, I said, Peter, can you hook up that Lindrum for Want a New Drug? He says, sure. So he comes in and hooks up the Lindrum for Want a New Drug. And now we have sequenced, is sequenced with okay. So I go, cool. All right. So I put it on drum beat. I'm making this up, 105 beats per minute, let's say. And now my bass player, Mario Cipollina, and my drummer, Bill Gibson, are in the control room now with me and the engineer. And the only person in the studio is Chris Hayes, our guitar player, and Sean Hopper, our keyboard player. And they're playing to the machine and the bass. Well, it just lies there, and it's not good. And it's just not happening. And they're miserable. My bass player and my drummer, I can hear, I'm just miserable. So I go, oh, well, hell with it. It's not going to work. So I say, let's forget it. Let's just cut it. Forget the machines. Let's just cut it straight. So we cut the whole song, just, played it. And then we finished the record. We went to New York. We mixed the record with Bob Clearmountain, and I mixed Want a New Drug like 3 or 4 times. I couldn't get it to groove somehow. I just wouldn't groove it like it should. But finally, I think I got a pretty good mix. We got a pretty good mix, and we were done with the record. But just before we could hand in the record, Chrysalis sold out to CBS. So now we didn't have a record label, and we weren't going to give the record to CBS because we were worried they haven't figured the dust hadn't settled yet, and how were they going to promote it and whatever. So the idea was hang on to the record, don't turn it in yet, and just hit the road and travel to make a living because we had to pay the bills. So we hit the road. We called it the Working for a Living Tour. We did 10 weeks on the road with one bus. And of course, the first month on the road, we didn't listen to the record. We just finished this record, just mixed it. And we've been working on it for a year, so we didn't listen to it. Last thing we wanted to do is listen to it again. We've been listening to it every single day and working on it. So we just let it ride and worked and did our show for like a month. And now one night after the gig, about a month into our tour, we get in the bus and we're going to drive overnight. And it's about, it's after the gig. It's 11, 12 o'clock. We're in the lounge. I said, guys, let's listen to the record. Oh, okay, sure. So we put the record on and played it. And I went, it just wasn't happening. It was just not good. And Want a New Drug was not grooving, none of these songs. So I screamed foul and convinced the record label and my manager and everybody else that we needed to go back in the studio and re-record. We went back in the studio. We put the machines back on Want a New Drug. And instead of 105, we set it at 107. I'm making those up. I can't remember the exact numbers. But we sped it up 2 ticks. And oh my God, it just came alive. And so we re-recorded Want a New Drug, Harder Rock and Roll, Walking on a Thin Line, Bad Is Bad, all cut to the Lindrum machine.
So you're done. It's in the can. Did you know at that time that this album was really special?
No idea. Zero. I knew heart and soul. My theory as a producer was we're going to write the best 8 songs we can and then the best 2 we can find. and that was kind of always been my philosophy. So we found this tune, Heart and Soul, got sent to me, and it sounded like a hit to me, and we just kind of copied that. So when that one went, that was our first single, and it went top 10. It didn't go top 5, but it went top 10, and we were off to. And then the second single was "Want a New Drug," and that when "Want a New Drug" started to climb the charts, I said, "Wow, we're gonna have a few here," because "Want a New Drug's not a classic hit single, you know what I mean? It's more of a personality job. And so the notion that they like this personality, well, if you like that, we got a lot more for you.
Yeah.